Hello everyone and welcome. Sit back, relax, make a cup of tea or whatever you like to drink and get ready for new stories from Yellowcat. Send your own favorite stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. So subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet and let's get started. What did your boss do that instantly destroyed employee morale? Part 8. We are an electrical contractor company of 35, of which 27 are in the field, and we get paid time off, PTO, based on how many hours we work in a given week. Full-time workers receive an additional 6 paid days off per year, which can be used for running errands, taking sick days, looking after the kids, and other activities. Word has reached the office staff that one of the field workers, who's well known to the other field technicians as an alcoholic, was using his paid time off due to an excessive tip the previous evening, which prevented him from arriving at work on time. He drove into the office to argue angrily with the owner after the owner rejected his PTO claim. The very next day, an email to the entire company is sent out announcing that PTO will be suspended indefinitely due to misuse. Not even sure if their actions were authorized. However, they chose to use it as a means of avoiding having to pay out about 180 earned days off to the entire company rather than dealing with this one employee. When this occurred approximately a week ago, morale rapidly declined. The majority of field technicians began arriving late, fiddling with their phones, and departing early. A few guys have already abandoned ship, and it appears that many more are going to do the same. I'll bear it for a few months, as I deserve a Yeti cooler and time off for my anniversary. I was employed at a well-known and cherished local family-run market. The proprietors were a charming couple who looked out for their staff and went above and beyond for their clients. They were well-respected and very involved in the community. They employed temporary workers during the summer and on holidays in addition to their small core staff. Most of the temps were home for break from college or high school. For as long as they could, they'd bring back the same individuals, and the children would make every effort to remain. The owners would close the store a few days a year and throw an annual party for all of the staff members. The pay was also significantly more than market for those positions, and we could shop there and receive a 75% discount. After 6 months, you'd also receive 2 weeks of paid vacation. For any high school student in the area, it was the best job available. Because my parents were friends with the store owners and I lived close by, I was hired there. My pals were all envious. The couple decided to retire after a few years of employment in order to spend more time with their daughter and her children who live in a different state. They held a grand retirement celebration, introducing their son to everyone and informing us that he'd be taken over, and many tears were shed. They gushed about his background and prestigious business education. The son made the decision to completely renovate the store in his likeness as soon as they left. Almost every employee, the majority of whom had worked there for 10 or more years, was fired by him. Then he hired homeschoolers to staff the entire establishment. He eliminated the holidays and savings. In order to take the profits and go out and party, he hired some of his old high school friends to manage the place. The shop had to retrain a whole new staff every other month after having the same employees for years. Nobody desired to remain. Supervisors were reporting damaged products as faulty and returning them home. Shelves were vacant. Locals ceased doing their shopping there. The location turned into a corpse of what it once was. The original owners returned briefly to try to put things right after receiving so many complaints about their son from their friends, but it was too late. All of the original employees had left and the store's supplier had ceased doing business with them. They made the decision to sell the store, close it, and relocate permanently. The son's wife had divorced him, and as far as I knew, he was having issues with the IRS. There was this dentist who I went to when I was a kid, and he was always very cool, extremely nice, funny, and so on. How about we fast forward 5 or 6 years? I'm working in retail, and who else would walk in but good old Dr. Scott. It's not a big deal. He's here with his wife, and the two of them are having a conversation about it all. On the other hand, it is 5 minutes before shutting down on a Friday night. One of these jerks goes shopping with his wife for almost 2 hours after the store is closed. We're the kind of nice store that's not permitted to ask you to get the F out because we want to go home and we're unable to close the last register. By walking by them on a regular basis and asking if they require assistance, we're permitted to harass them. With the exception of closing the final register, all of our work had been completed. However, this also means that we're unable to balance all the drawers and other items. As a result, 2 individuals have at least another 45 minutes of work to do once they finally F off. Furthermore, they were shopping for 2 hours, which means that they had almost 3 carts full of S. After what seems like an eternity, they finally check out, and their manager, Miss Cool, who's both awesome and bubbly, finally grabs the drawer and is about to head upstairs when the new manager, D-Head, calls us up to the front for a quick meeting. Because it's now past midnight on a Friday night and some of us are required to return the following day, we are all extremely irritated. Miss Cool Manager was never one of those people who got angry with D-Head Manager. I've seen people get angry with D-Head Manager. It was getting close to the 45-minute mark for his meeting. At that moment, D-Head yells out, "Oh, I'm sorry, am I keeping you?" People were literally falling asleep on the floor. Miss Cool Manager loses her cool and blurts out, "Actually, yes, D." He uses his first name, which was unexpected for her. "We're here almost 3 hours late on a Friday, and I'm not even done yet, and you decide to have this stupid A meeting that is on literally nothing. Therefore, you are indeed keeping us, and we would really like to go home." It's clear that D-Head has anger management issues that have been demonstrated in the past, and I'm pretty certain that if a male employer had said this, they would have been physically beaten in the face. D-Head's face turns red. D-Head calls a halt to the gathering at this point and sends everyone else, with the exception of Miss Cool, home. Miss Cool is terminated the following day. The regional manager, who's an older version of D-Head, was approached by the other employees who attempted to have a conversation with him. Of course, the 2 are friends. Doesn't matter to him at all. Over the course of several months, we had been exceeding our sales targets, and we were the 2nd largest store in the state. On that particular day, I witnessed 7 individuals walk out of the store. The remaining members of the crew did their best to keep the business running, but by the end of the day, a total of 10 individuals had left. About 3 months later, when I finally had enough, I told them to drink the effing mop water and that I was going to go home. I lasted for about 3 months. Their customer base went through a precipitous decline, and they hired a group of cretins, and the store ultimately went out of business for good. Do you have any absurd tales to tell about your HOA, COA, or neighbors? Part 8. My first home was located in the middle of our rather large neighborhood backing up to a park. The park was literally backed up over the fence. The park separated the 2 sets of house styles from different builders that made up the neighborhood to the north and south. I wake up one Saturday morning to find that the backyard is completely submerged in 2 feet of water. While strolling through the park, I notice that a pipe has burst. The entire yard of my house and 3 other houses was underwater. We each left voicemail after voicemail when we called the HOA. When we eventually reached someone, they casually replied, "Okay, we'll send someone out Monday or Tuesday." Remember that at this moment, water is literally pouring out of my fire pit. It is about to pour into my door, and it is pouring out completely. Luckily, my neighbor, whose home was in risk of flooding as well, knew what to do and managed to turn off the water. The HOA ultimately took the neighbor to task for interfering with their pipes. In any case, this occurred 4 more times in the following year. Every time a school holiday, winter break, summer break, etc. approached, children were clearly engaging in it. Every time I end up losing my A with the HOA. I make phone calls and write letters. The majority receive no response, and those that do all reply with something like, "Okay, we'll have someone look at it in a few days." I start to lose it over this and end up calling the water district, the news, the BBB, etc. Apparently, I've finally caught their attention. One day, the owner of the property management company calls me. She begins by lecturing me about how impatient I've been with these issues and how I should have complained in person or at a meeting. Remember that I work a 9-to-5 desk job and that all of the meetings are held on Wednesdays every other month at 3 p.m. and that their office is only open from 9 to 5 on Monday through Friday. I'm tired of her BS, so I cut her off. I mentioned the words foundation to my home, lawyer, and liability, and I guess she noticed. Nevertheless, at this point, I realized I was conversing with a complete moron. Yes, I will say it again, this is the business owner. "Sir, I don't even understand why you're concerned about the park," she says. "It's not even within your neighborhood. The moment she said that, I hesitated. "What do you mean?" I inquired. "The two types of houses in my neighborhood seem to be part of separate HOA communities. The houses around me are in the XYZ community. I live in the ABC community, and it looks like the park is run by the HOA for ABC community. We all live on the same street, and that effing park with the pipe that floods my backyard with several feet of water is on the other side of my effing fence, but those other houses literally start 30 feet from my front door. We all belong to a different HOA." She says that in order to get the issue resolved, I must attend one of the HOA meetings. She called on a day when there was another flood, so I lost it again and told her that I was literally gonna drown in my own home and that I wouldn't be attending any effing meetings. I also insisted that she give me the number of someone at that HOA. She did, and I recorded it. I then gave the number she provided me a call. The property management company remained the same. She gave me her company's effing number. This B was unable to assist me because 1. The complaints had been filed under my HOA community's name, 2. The park that was flooding my house was part of a different HOA, and 3. The phone call needed to be logged to the HOA that was in violation. This effing company managed both HOAs, which were both in the same neighborhood and shared the same park that literally flooded people's homes. There are those who pray for world peace. Some pray for the eradication of world hunger. I pray every time that a comet crashes into the Earth's atmosphere, hitting the property management company owner square in the effing head. I resided in a community that provided maintenance. Dues of roughly $100 per month were required to cover upkeep of the 2 pools, tennis court, and basketball court in addition to the grounds. Furthermore, an additional $100 per month was levied to fund a program to replace all the decks and stucco the siding on all the units. Before I moved in, the siding/deck program was already in place. During my 5 years in the community, our annual date to upkeep our home was repeatedly postponed owing to financial constraints. A year after I sold and moved out, a number of homeowners sued the HOA and discovered that it was highly likely that the president had been embezzling money from the association in order to purchase real estate in another state. The president passed away soon after the lawsuit was filed, and it was later found out that the HOA had never kept accurate financial records, so we were never able to find out for sure. Thus, for over 7 years, nearly 200 homes had been paying $100 a month, and none of that money could be traced. Every time I think about it, I smile. My grandmother and grandfather spent roughly 15 years living in a senior-friendly homeowners association. During that time, my grandmother was an enthusiastic gardener, with her hydrangea bushes being her favorite plants. For the whole time that they lived there, the HOA has approved her garden in the back of the house and the bushes in the front. The HOA board saw a significant turnover a year or 2 after she passed away, and the HOA told my grandpa that the bushes needed to go. The HOA even threatened to forcibly remove the bushes. Grandpa is a retired federal appellate judge who enjoys arguing in his spare time. He's frequently told my uncle and me that he truly didn't find joy in anything after Grandma passed away, but that he's now only here to spite the HOA and is loving every second of it. He's prepared response letters for all of the HOA violations for which he might get fined, having spent roughly half a year writing them a year ago. According to my uncle, my grandfather has essentially set aside tens of thousands of dollars annually for the past 30 years to cover the costs of legal filings, investigation, and penalties. He will never stop. He is the terminator of HOA fine notices. Thankfully, not my HOA, but a few close family friends. Our friends suffer from glaucoma and NF, a kind of cancer. Though he is now 6 years old, he was not allowed to play outside in the sun when he was younger. His parents intended to install a retractable awning because the doctor advised them to cover their porch with an awning or shade so that their son could play outside while remaining safe. After they disobeyed, the HOA lost their cool and filed a lawsuit. So, using the ADA, my friend countersued the HOA with the help of an attorney. The association incurred enormous costs for legal fees in order to prepare for a trial. My friends, who are fairly wealthy, weren't suing for money damages. Instead, they were requesting a court order to install the shade and justice for their son. After reviewing the case, the judge told the HOA president and attorney that nothing the attorney could say would persuade him to rule in my friend's favor, and that he would not only recommend that they countersue for monetary damages, and that he would award them all. This was before the judge went on record. It took the HOA 5 minutes to settle. Side note, this is the same HOA that convinced an old, disabled, wheelchair-bound woman that she couldn't install a wheelchair ramp in front of her house. Yes, they also lost that case. If you want to watch the part 7, click the link here. Thank you for subscribing, the likes and comments. We're very happy to see you all in the comments too. Thanks for support.